Chris, I do need to show you something very important about this. It's right about here. About, and then down here. Do you happen to know what this is?
Pyramid?
No, this right here. This is the end. It's the end.
It's the end of the dollar.
Well, no,
Yeah.
it's the end of the trick.
Oh.
Yeah, you're not supposed to do the end before you get to the beginning, but you know what?
Right.
It's so phenomenal. When we get to the end, you're gonna love it.
Okay.
Spectacular ending. I know it doesn't make much sense now without the context, but we're going to get to that. It does beg the question, though. If this is the end, where's the beginning?
Right.
It does depend on from time to time, dollar to dollar, trick to trick, Chris to Chris.
Yeah.
So I'm going to guess it's probably about right here for us today. Okay.
Okay.
Now, basically, what I'm saying is, all good tricks have to have a beginning and an end, right? A magic trick without a beginning, well, the ending wouldn't make much sense.
Right.
If a magic trick didn't have an end, well, that's just a long-ass magic trick. I wouldn't want to subject you to that. So we do have to start somewhere, and I was thinking, if it's all the same to you, maybe we could start at the beginning. I've heard it's a very good place to start.
Yeah.
Can you take this guy and uncap the marker for me, please? This is for you. And literally all I want you to do is just kind of sign your name right big. I smeared it a little bit. That's okay. Perfecto. We gotta try that. Make sure it doesn't actually wipe off or anything. It's not like a dry erase marker or anything. Good. But we can agree that you signed at the beginning.
Yes.
Well, technically, it was the end of the beginning. Which,
What?
Right, which is not to be confused with the beginning of the end, which isn't even a thing.
Right.
But even if it was, it wouldn't make any sense. It wouldn't mean anything because we only care about the end. We can't end until we get to the end of the end, which I told you about at the beginning. Time is weird.
It is so.
Basically, what I'm saying is, if you want to see some weird shit, don't take your eyes off your initials. Chris?
Okay. Yeah.
1, 2.
You took your eye off of it.
This is for you. Squeeze that. And actually, Chris, with your other hand, if you don't mind, just squeeze onto it really tight. Perfect. Initials here, dollar here. You can actually toss those initials back on the bill.
Swings.
Oh, not yet.
Okay.
You have to wait till the end.
Duh.
Or the beat.
I'll make the joke so, Chris.
So, yeah.
Yeah, it takes a while. It's a waiting game. And go, 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 go! Toss it, toss it, toss it! Thank you. Oh, that's great. Well, I mean, it is officially the end, so yeah.
Okay.
And we can only open up when we get to the end, which I told you about at the beginning. And I said when we get to the end,
Follow
it'll be something
direction.
absolutely spectacular. Can you check that box?
That's no way. What?
That's for you. Thanks, dude.
Thank you, Kyle.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? Kyle Purnell here, and this is the bill thing that a lot of people have been talking about, so I thought I'd go over a quick overview over how it works. I'm really excited about this concept because it's using a borrowed bill for a completely impromptu feat that you couldn't really do with other methods in the past. So there's no gimmicks, there's no switching, there's no nothing. It's literally just borrow a bill, and you can do it. Okay? So basically the concept is that you fold it in such a way that it looks like it just folded up into quarters. It looks pretty good. And then the secret is that you actually have folded an extra layer onto the bottom half. But because of the busy design of the bill, it blends in quite nicely. There are a few visual discrepancies that you can easily cover with your fingers, and it looks pretty darn good. And then when you're ready to make the change happen, you just rub. And believe it or not, the change just happened. So if you have ink on here, so maybe a signature up here and a shape down here, or perhaps there's an arrow and then a signature here, you can make that completely come off. You can also do a transposition. You can make ink appear. You could even tear off a corner and make that disappear and then reappear elsewhere. So there's a lot of different things you can do with this concept. Let me teach you how to do the fold. Okay, so I'm going to teach you how to do it as a right-hander. Now, I am usually a left-hander, so it might not be the most natural thing in the world for me to do, but I'm going to teach it to you because I figure most of you are probably of the right-handed variety. Okay, so you're going to take a bill, and you're going to fold it in half with the president on the outside. Super important. You're going to do that whether you're right-handed or left-handed. Okay? Now, as a right-hander, you're going to look at the word America. If you're looking at the word United, it's wrong. Okay? As a right-hander, you got to look at the word America and then fold that to the inside as your hamburger folding it again. You want to make sure, of course, that everything is lined up as nicely as it could be. Okay? Now, under the guise of unfolding it back to half, you're not going to do that. You're actually only going to unfold one layer. Okay? So it looks like I unfolded it back to half, but I'm actually only one layer back into half. Okay? So instead of unfolding this one just stays folded. Okay? From the front, it just looks like this, and almost in one continuous motion, I'm going to fold it up into quarters the other way. But because you're folding it up, you are actually creating a pocket. Okay, from this side you can see you're creating a thick little pocket with the opening up. Okay, now as you're creasing this, make sure your fingers are covering it. You want to make sure it's covering it so they don't see any discrepancies or any seams here. Okay, so covering here as you crease here, and again, make sure you're aligning everything. When everything is aligned and creased, now you're going to take this part and you're going to fold it back here. Now this is behind your fingers, but you're not hiding the fact that you're folding it. Okay? And then you line up everything and you have a nice little packet. That looks pretty normal until you're about to do the next thing, and this is the coolest part of the whole bit. You're going to reach your thumb in, your dominant thumb, into the folded side. Not the front, not the flared side, the folded side. You reach your thumb in and you're going to fold it up, okay? Or rather unfold it. And as you're unfolding it, you'll meet some resistance. So from the back, I'll show you what it looks like. So you take your thumb and put it in the folded side and unfold it, and as you do, it almost look rather origami-ish. And that's kind of what it is. And as you unfold it, you're going to press down and you're going to crease this kind of tube into a triangle. So it rests flat along the back. Okay? And now you're in that position. So it looks like you have a bill that's folded into quarters, but in actuality, you have a secret layer that is able to conceal anything beneath it. It's also able to get rid of anything that you write on it. Okay? And that is the fold. Now from here, I'll teach you how to activate the flap, although I don't really like to think of it as a flap because it doesn't behave as intuitively as a flap would. A flap just opens and closes, right? This doesn't open and close, okay? And that's very important, I think, to know, because intuitively you might think that in order to activate it, you extend your fingers and then bring them back somehow, but you don't do that. What you do is you slide your fingers down, okay? In doing this, there's virtually no finger motion because you're just sliding your hand down as if to get it out of the way. Okay, so let me show you what the change looks like. And you would be taking the ink off in this case. Okay, now again, there's no ink on here, so you can't see yet. I'll add the ink on a little bit when I teach the routine. Okay, now after I did that change, you're actually in this state right now. Okay, it doesn't fully open. In order to get as least amount of finger movement as possible, this is what you're going to do. And here's the exposed. So on the folded side, you're going to grip with your middle finger and display like this. And as you pull down, you're literally just you're dragging this flap down as you slide your fingers down. There's no extending of the fingers. And you're not pulling it back. You are just sliding your hand down as if to get it out of the way. And then you can kind of readjust it as needed, but you aren't pulling the flap down. That's super important. You aren't coming out like this and pulling it away. You're starting right near the end and you're just sliding the hand down as if to get it out of the way. Now, you do that as this hand swings up and pinches the bill above the flap. Right now I'm pinching above the flap. Okay? Pinching above the flap. And now I slide this out of the way, so now the change is already activated, but it doesn't look like it did anything yet. At this point, I can just slide any ink off or make the transposition happen or whatever the effect may be, give it to them, and I am done with that. Okay? Now, at this point, you need to undo this because you're in a fairly sensitive position at this point. And to unfold this bill, to get it back into a completely unfolded bill, it's very simple actually. All you do from behind is you take your thumb, put it in that tube again, and with your non-dominant hand, you grab onto the outer corner like this, and my dominant hand rotates up and grabs the tube, or the triangle, and just pulls up. And as it pulls up, everything just unfolds. Okay, I'll show you what that looks like from the front. Okay, so you're in this position. You swing up, but you swing up with your non-dominant hand. This comes down. Get that off, and then you grab onto this, and from the front, you just unfold it. Happens in the offbeat, and you're good to go. Now, at this point, any magic that has just transpired is absolutely done. You've done all the work. But there's a few tells that tell you that you did the work. For example, you're going to have some folds, some diagonal folds that really shouldn't be there. And especially if you're doing the beginning and end routine, like you saw at the beginning of this video, the lines are going to be a little bit off of the creases. You don't want them to necessarily see that or notice that. So I just crumple it up. As soon as I take this off, I crumple it up, destroying any evidence, put it in their hand, and you're completely done. Okay? So, now, let's go over how to do the routine. Again, I will teach it from a right-hander's perspective, but if you're left-handed, you are literally going to do the opposite of everything I say. Everything. Okay? So for a right-hander, in that beginning and end routine, a right-hander would draw the line and draw the square on the eagle side. A left-hander draws it on the pyramid side, which I did. Okay? But again, I'll teach it as if I'm a right-hander. So you're going to draw the line almost at the tips of the eagle's wings, and you're going to stop as soon as you get to the innermost wing. Okay, so you draw the line, and then you draw the line down to the bottom. Basically, you want it a little bit bigger than what the crease line will be. So the crease line is a little bit smaller than this. That's because when you fold it, it'll be small enough that the lines that you draw for the square won't be included. So that's why they don't notice that they're signing inside the box. Okay? Then from the other side, you're going to draw an arrow. It doesn't really matter where it is. It's not quite as crucial as the block. Okay, but I like to draw it on the outermost side of whatever circle it is. So right-handers, you're going to draw it on the outside up to about halfway of the pyramid. Left-handers, it would be on this side. You're just literally going to reverse it. Okay? So you draw these two things. I would give the Sharpie to the spectator to hold on to at this point because they're going to recap it very shortly. So now you do the fold that I just went over. Now, while you're folding this, this could easily get dry really quickly, even though the folding doesn't take too long. So I'm going to talk as I'm doing this. Okay, so you do want to make sure that you are being engaging while you're folding this, of course. So I talk about how a trick has to have a beginning and it has to have an end. If it doesn't have a beginning, the end wouldn't make sense. If it doesn't have an end, then that's a long-ass magic trick. Okay, but we need to start somewhere, so I was thinking we could start at the beginning. I've heard it's a good place to start. Okay? And that is usually about enough time that it takes me to make all the folds and all the creases. Okay, at this point, I bring it back up, and I do the final move. And I love this visual here, because they can see the arrow, and they can see that everything is oriented the way it should be, even if there is no special move. But if you think about it, when they're writing beneath the arrow now, not only are they not actually drawing underneath the arrow, but this actually is the square that you just drew on. So they're actually signing in that square, even though it looks like they're signing underneath the arrow. Okay? So for the sake of completion, let's say they draw their initials. Okay? And as I'm having them sign it, it's important to note that I flip it down and I hold it with my thumbs. Okay? Because it's kind of weird to have them sign it like this. That just looks a little bit too contrived to me. This looks a little bit more natural. You can just kind of sign that for me. Good. Now when they're done, now I go back here and I can gesture now. Now, the important point to make here is that if I'm not moving, I keep both fingers on here. If I am moving, then I can take my finger off of the folded side and I can just kind of display. You don't even have to be moving that much. Okay? And I always have the bottom side kind of pointed towards them because it's a step illusion. So if I have the other side pointed towards them, they might be able to see something. If I hold it this side, they're never going to see anything. Okay? So they can see their initials right underneath the arrow. Then you come up, you do the move, and it looks like you just slide those initials right off. You can hand it to them. Now you do the unfold move. Okay? Hand it to them, but not before crumpling it up. And now you are absolutely done. You can milk it for all it's worth. And then when they open it up, they'll see the impossible from here all the way into this box. And this is their borrowed bill. There's no prep. You can give it to them as a little souvenir. And this is just one application of the bill thing. So I'm hoping that you guys will kind of take this and run with it and figure out some other really cool ways to use this principle. This is just one effect that you can do. I've thought about, obviously transpositions and torn corners, and thought about making ink appear, and maybe even instead of an arrow here, having them sign it, and then underneath that drawing like a smiley face, and then pulling out the smiley face and then turning into a quarter, and then doing like a 1 coin routine with the quarter, and then making it vanish, and then appearing back on the bill but at a different spot than it originally was. So just playing around with a lot of these ideas, but I'm hoping that you guys are much more creative than I am, and you can figure out some really cool things too, and I'd love to see what you guys come up with. Thanks so much. We'll see you next time.